The Iran deal is a secret, but it's very strong. But they can't tell us about it. But it leaked. So from what we do know, it's basically a total capitulation, but in like a really strong and winning way, okay? JD Vance's book tour is a preview of what his presidential campaign will look like. Ravi and I will give our review. Welcome back to the podcast for the 54% of Americans who vote for progress and want to convince their friends and family members to join our majority.
Well, what we have from Trump is not necessarily a deal necessarily, but a memorandum of understanding. You can't even make this stuff up. The past couple of days, we've been treated with absolute secrecy as to what is in this deal. But the administration, that doesn't stop the administration from saying that people are mischaracterizing it, which it's hard to characterize something that you don't know what it is. But here's just one of the many confusing public appearances Trump has made on this front.
And you can't give Iran a nuclear weapon. And they will never have a nuclear weapon. So that's very, very strong. It's a very strong deal. Nobody knows what it is, but it's very strong. And most people seem to be very happy. Who's really happy is the market.
I mean, unpack this for me, Jason. So the market is happy, but they don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. Nobody knows what it is, but it's very strong.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's infrastructure week, Ravi. Yeah. It's been infrastructure week on Iran for a while now. And as I had two competing predictions, really. I thought he was going to do one of two things. I thought he was either going to just walk away and have like a temporary ceasefire that nothing ever gets resolved and just pretend the whole thing in it. I'm glad he didn't do that. That would have been worse. But the other possibility was a complete and total capitulation, which he would then go to work reframing and doing his revisionist history thing and having all the Republican elected officials come in and sing the chorus behind him saying, oh, it was an amazing deal when, and we can get to it in a moment, but now the actual deal or the actual memorandum of understanding seems to have leaked. And he capitulated in ways I didn't even expect.
Yeah, we lost this war. Like, I think it's just straight up. Like, we lost this war. Now, we're going to get to the details, as you said, about what's in this deal. Spoiler, not much about nuclear material, but like a sort of intention to resolve the nuclear issue with a good faith commitment of the Iranians to not develop a weapon without any of the verifying mechanisms that were in place during the JCPOA under Obama.
And not to get ahead of it, but on that point, in the leaked text, the word that is used is reiterated. Iran reiterated its promise not to pursue a nuclear weapon, which makes it very clear that Iran is saying, and this is true, we are exactly where we were before the war, which is we promised before the war not to pursue a nuclear weapon. And we will reiterate that promise. That's what we got. We got them to say, no, really, my promise, I mean it.
There are many, many ways in which we are worse off than we were before. But one of them is that, forget what the Iranians said, Trump is basically signaled to the Iranians that he doesn't care about this issue anymore, which was the premise of this war. Let's go to this clip.
So the Atomic Energy just reported that it was one of the most devastating bombings that they've ever seen. The whole mountain collapsed on top of it. And frankly, to go get it, we're going to go get it. But to go get it is a big deal because they say only China and us have the equipment where you can even get. The whole mountain is collapsed on top. We have cameras on it. You could make the case why you even bothering because it's not really valuable. It's it's probably $500,000 worth. It's not very valuable stuff. But I think psychologically we want to get it.
So the whole reason why we launched this war, I think, it's hard to remember all the dumb explanations. At some point, they were pretending to care about the Iranian people. That didn't last very long. It certainly didn't make it to this text. Now it's $500,000. He's saying that can't be true. Like, there's no, like, people listening to this,
it's nuclear material worth $500,000. I'm sorry. He completely made that up.
A lot of people listening to this, you look around your neighborhood, there probably isn't a house on your block, depending on where you live, that is $500,000. So can't be possible that, this uranium sitting in this underground layer is $500,000. But what's important is that Trump does not care. The Iranians can watch what we're watching, and I don't think they're concerned at all. I think they're high-fiving right now in whatever underground bunker that they're about to get out of now. And they won this war.
Can I also say that we don't really know whether, when he says the entire mountain collapsed on it, we don't really know whether that's based on actual bomb damage assessments or whether that's just he saw Top Gun Maverick.
Right.
I don't even know which it is.
Well, or whatever crayon drawing the intelligence community decided would capture his attention that day.
Yeah.
But, I'm going to show one more sort of analysis. I just want to make one more point about this not sharing the text thing before we actually talk about what we're pretty certain now is in the text, because it's been leaked. Because I think this is absurd that we are now many days into this announcement and they haven't officially said what was in it. And the gaslighting is insane. And JD Vance, who's been doing the rounds, and we'll talk more about him in a bit, gave, I think, a curious explanation as to why they haven't released the text.
Why can't they see? Why can't we all see the MOU right now?
Well, yeah. So first of all, the president said by the latest Friday, possibly as early as tomorrow, we're going to release the memorandum of understanding text. The reason why we haven't released it yet is there are some delicate diplomatic things going on where the Iranians, and not just the Iranians, but some of our mediators, the Pakistanis and the Qataris, have asked us to sequence this in the right way. I don't frankly fully understand it, but there are sensitivities that exist in the Arab and Muslim world that we're trying to be responsive to. Fundamentally, does it really matter if the deal comes out on Wednesday versus Friday? No. That's why we haven't emphasized it so much, is because at the very latest, the text is going to be out on Friday.
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, you've already signed it, but it's not like legally binding to where you can't undo it. It's a diplomatic agreement. So it's
correct.
If people freak out, there's an utter meltdown here in the United States. It could always be undone if you change your minds.
Exactly. And again, I could.
Wait a minute. So the reason why the American public doesn't get the text of this document is because the Emiratis and Qataris, which, by the way, is a lie. Like, you read this document, there's not a thing in this document that is sensitive to the Qataris and Emiratis. You know what's sensitive, Jason? Trump's ego and the fact that they knew that there would be a shitstorm once people read this thing, and they wanted to get it across the finish line before people could freak out.
They want us to believe that the Trump administration is suddenly very concerned about how things would be perceived in the Arab and Muslim world. After, like, a few weeks ago, Trump, about one of our allies in this war, just said, well, if they don't do what we want, we'll just bomb them too.
Right.
But now they're like, oh, no problem. This great deal that we made, we won't tell people about it for several days.
Well, let me just so let's talk about what was in it. So Bloomberg, others have released the text of the deal that we were not officially given by the White House. Wall Street Journal had a really good analysis of it. Here are just some things that stand out to me in this, in the sort of 12 or 14 points that are in this. One is they included Lebanon, which I'm sure the Israelis will hate because they have an ongoing war with Lebanon. They include, I think this is the most important part, maybe $300 billion in financing commitments from the U.S. To rebuild Iran. They're going to look at
$300 billion.
I'm going to go out on a limb and think that we're going to get a Kushner involved in that project and a Witkoff potentially, the people who negotiated this deal. Lifting of another $100 billion in frozen assets around the world. Lifting all sanctions. All oil export bans will be lifted. They will recognize the sovereignty of Iran. There will be there was no exclusion of taxes that they can charge for ships traveling straight, which they're now calling fees because they've learned from American bureaucratic speak that they could charge environmental fees, which is comical. And maybe most importantly, no mechanism to verify that they've stopped enriching uranium or developing a bomb. So they're saying, like, we're going to, like, not do it. But, you know, we learned from Susan Rice last week how much went into verifying that they weren't developing a bomb. None of that is in this, will never be in any of these documents. Those are the things that stood out to me.
So for all the people who cheered Trump when he got rid of Obama's deal with Iran, the criticism of that deal was on the high end, people were claiming, and it wasn't true, but people were claiming stuff like 100 billion in assets were unfrozen by Obama to go to Iran. When you look into it, it's the actual high end is probably around 30, and they were Iranian assets that were unfrozen as part of the deal. And it's what got Iran to submit to really intrusive inspections. And it's what was keeping Iran from actually pursuing a nuclear weapon. Even subsequent to Trump getting rid of the deal and bombing them, Iran was still saying, well, we have no interest in, we're not pursuing a nuclear weapon. Whether that's true or not, that's what they were saying. What we got from this deal is they're like, no, we won't pursue a nuclear weapon. So the exact same thing they were saying beforehand, except we can't check to tell whether or not they're telling the truth because that was not included in this deal. It was there before it was shredded by Trump, but that's not included in this deal. And for all the people who are upset over, several like tens of billions of dollars in unfrozen assets going to Iran, this is between the unfrozen assets and the rebuilding funds. This is $400 billion that Iran gets, and they get to make money charging fees through the Strait of Hormuz. There is no argument to be made, not only that the United States won the war, but that the United States really got anything out of it. You can make an argument that Israel is maybe a little bit more secure from conventional attacks because of the way that Iran's Navy and Air Force has been degraded. But you can't make any logical argument whatsoever that the national security or economic interests of the United States are in any way helped by this. They're only hurt.
Yeah, and whoever's making that argument on behalf of Israel to me is living in outer space because
I agree.
All
I'm
these
just you could actually make the argument, but it's not right.
Yeah, I mean, you could make that in maybe in the matter of months. Like you could say like in the next couple months maybe, but like hundreds of billions of dollars plus many lucrative avenues to build to raise tons of revenue that isn't going to go to hospitals for the people of Iran. Like I'm pretty confident it's going to go to weapons. And this is what Netanyahu has to answer his people on. This was a war that he pushed. He trusted an idiot like Trump. They very aggressively, have been politicking in this country, all leading up to this moment, so that they could have the thing that they want. And now they have the thing that they want, and it's complete shit. That didn't stop Lindsey Graham though from trying to spin this.
Yeah, watch this.
Let's hear from him.
Off on whatever that reason.
Under the law, any nuclear deal with Iran has to come to Congress for disapproval. That's what we did under Obama, and President Trump said today he will send it to Congress. He welcomes a vote. Here's what we achieved. If this thing goes through Friday, we've opened up the straits, which will help the economy of the world. The world will be in a permanent ceasefire, hopefully, and we'll try to get a nuclear deal with Iran, and hopefully that will work out. If it doesn't, then we still achieved opening up the straits and stopping the fighting.
So let me get this straight. What we achieved by ending the war, what we achieved was we ended the war that we started. That's the number one achievement. The number two achievement is we got the Strait of Hormuz reopened, kind of, that was fully opened before. And now maybe we can get a nuclear deal. Just to be clear, prior to Trump destroying the Obama nuclear deal with Iran, we had inspections to make sure that they weren't actually developing a nuclear weapon. We had spent a whole lot less, not even spent, we had released a whole lot less money than they're getting. Iran actually had, an ineffective but a vibrant resistance movement and democracy movement that's been completely wiped out now by the strengthening and centralization of power in the country during the war into the Revolutionary Guard. And we actually had a nuclear deal before. Now we're like, oh, and by the way, we did all this without killing any innocent people or losing any of our service members. But now we had a war where we killed a lot of people, including a lot of children, which is in its own right horrible and reason enough to be upset about the war. But if you want to look at it solely in, brass tacks, practical American terms, you would say, well, that's a generation of new Iranians who have reason to hate the United States as a result. And we unfroze a lot more assets. We gave them a lot more control over their population to the point where protesting is going to be extremely difficult and unlikely now. And they made a lot more money that they're not going to spend on their people. I mean, I'm not forgetting anything.
No, I mean, that's right. David French had his tweet. He said different people learn at different rates and in different ways, that even if Trump does what you want, he'll tend to do it in the most corrupt and incompetent way possible. He's more likely to discredit or destroy your cause than advance it. The Iran war is no exception. And there's any number of Iran war hawks who are trying to grapple with what they're seeing. You know, I'd mentioned this before that, you know, Ben Shapiro had a debate with Sam Harris maybe a month or two ago, in which Harris was like, okay, we debated before this past election. Now the election's happened. Here are all these things you said wouldn't happen. Tariffs, blah, 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 blah. They've all happened. What could make you publicly regret your vote for Trump? And one of the things Shapiro said was, well, if there was a deal worse than the JCPOA in Iran, then I would regret my vote for Trump. I don't know if he's going to say he regret the vote for Trump, but this is a pretty extended video, but it's pretty juicy. You got to think about from Ben Shapiro's perspective. He has now basically tanked his own media company because he has been so singularly focused on this question of Iran and Israel. And he has been pro-Trump in large part by his own admission, because he cares about a couple issues. I think he says he cares about the border, he cares about the threat of Iran, and there's probably a couple other things in there. And so this is him having to grapple with what has just happened over the past few days. I apologize in advance for this extended clip, but it's worth it.
I'm noticing that Mohammed Khalibaf, who will apparently on Friday be literally in a photo op with the vice president of the United States. I cannot express to you how stomach turning that is. I don't care who the vice president is. I don't care who the president is. Leaders of the United States of America in a photo op with a mass murdering terrorist supporter like Mohammed Khalibaf shaking hands 6 months after he blew away 42,000 innocent people in the streets, and weeks after his administration was firing missiles at literally all of our allies in the region, and continues to support every terrorist group in the region, and is currently continuing to control the strait. Like right now, it is not fully open for business unless the Iranians have, quote unquote, decided it is. The idea here is that somehow this administration and the deal that has been cut weakens Hezbollah. I'm not seeing it so much. I'm not seeing it. Maybe it's there. Again, we haven't seen the MOU for the 1,000th time. We haven't seen the MOU. That's not because of me. I would like to see the MOU. I think you would like to see the MOU. Hell, I think we'd all like to see the MOU. If Israel is not a party to the actual talks, which they are not, they have not been included in the talks. If Israel is not a signatory to the agreement, which they are not, how in the world could you tie Israel's hands when it comes to self-defense in Lebanon while Hezbollah is firing rockets and drones over the border at Israeli citizens? Shall we say that this is not a popular MOU, from what I understand, in Israel? And again, Israel, they were flying jets alongside American jets during this whole operation. Iran was firing at American soldiers during this whole operation. So playing halvesies is a bit strange. If we release funds, or if we tell our Arab Gulf state allies to release funds to Iran, it doesn't have to be American taxpayer dollars. That is us releasing money to Iran. If you unfreeze money to a terrorist group, that is in fact money going to a terrorist group. It does not have to come from American. That's sleight of hand. It's rhetorical sleight of hand. I was not under the impression that you and I would be paying taxpayer dollars to go straight to Iran. But if we press people to release money to a terror state in order for them to continue to toll the strait and to exert control whenever they feel threatened, or for them to rebuild their ballistic missile and nuclear capacities, that is a gigantic mistake. To go back to the 5 standards of a good deal versus a bad deal. A bad deal would look like continued nuclear development. A bad deal would look like continued ballistic missile development. A bad deal would look like funding of terrorism abroad continuing. A bad deal would look like continued Iranian control over the strait and tolling of the strait. And a bad deal would look like more funding going into Iran.
And that's why I regret my vote for Donald Trump.
Yeah, is what he should say. Look, what these folks need to learn, Trump and his people, is that when you try to satisfy people who do not care about what happens to the people who are the enemy in this war. Like, I don't believe Ben Shapiro cares what really happens to the people of Iran. Ben Shapiro cares about, he cares about his network and making money. But after that, he cares about Israel and he cares about the United States. Not all of us. He cares about the people in Israel and the United States who agree with Ben Shapiro on stuff.
Right.
So unless you are going to pull no punches, unless you are going to try and do what Netanyahu did in Gaza, you will not satisfy the hawks in the Ben Shapiro camp. And so if you are not willing, and thank God they're not willing, to occupy the ground and invade the country and hold the ground, if you're not willing to do that, then you shouldn't do this in the first place. And President Obama knew that the American people weren't willing to do any of that, which is why he got the maximum level of concession that he could get without trying to do that. And Trump instead decided that he would go halfway in, and now everybody's mad at him. And he made us way worse off.
Yeah, and we're worse off in an acute sense, the direct consequences of this war, but the indirect consequences, which is that America looks weak. Who knows what this leads to in the future? It's a real mess, and actually, future presidents are going to be stuck with this too. Like if I'm Iran, what's the difference a year and a half? Like just start developing it under another president and force them to have to deal with it. It's a real problem.
I have an important message for anybody listening to this who think they might be president of the United States one day. And that is that if someone tells you that you can change the regime of a country entirely, I'm not talking switch out one leader for another leader who agrees with them or is worse or whatever. I'm saying if somebody tells you that you can do an Iraq level change in the leadership of a country, or the 20 years that the Taliban weren't in charge of Afghanistan, that level of a change of leadership in a country without ever putting a conventional troop on the ground, you stop getting advice from that person. If they tell you it can be done entirely from the air and from the sea and with maybe a few special forces, guys in black pajamas, they are not working in your best interest. And Trump fell for it, and others have too, and it's just not how it works.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if in the next 2 to 3 days before this, whatever's happening Friday, Trump gets so much heat that he starts promising things that are not in the deal, and whether that irks the Iranians. Because he's capable of making up anything, right? I think the Iranians sit tight and take this because they know no matter what Trump says, they have won this. And Trump wants no piece of them anymore.
And they have complete control in the country, and none of their people will ever hear any of what Trump says.
Right.
So what difference does it make to them?
Well, I think your dogs are calling on me to call a break here. So let's have a break. When we come back, we'll talk about Vance's media tour, the future of the Director of National Intelligence, some warning signs for Democrats, Kash Patel just being Kash Patel, and then a little bit of Susan Collins when we get back. And then we have Rob Sand running for governor of Iowa. Put away the heavy layers. It's time for breathable, durable clothes that move with you and can keep up with anything you put on your spring calendar and your summer calendar. Mack Weldon has updated closet staples like stretch twill chinos that go with everything and button-ups that keep you looking sharp from morning coffee to a dinner date. Discover upgraded fabrics, fresh styles, and more at MackWeldon.com. Plus, you get 20% off your first order. The Ace Collection by Mack Weldon is perfect for staying comfy and looking good. The fit is super comfortable and confidence boosting. It helps you know that you look good without even trying. And Mack Weldon has been my go-to as the weather's been getting more warm here in New York. They balance classic pieces with updated details that keep you looking sharp. Not flashy, just classic. Always in style and made from the world's most comfortable performance materials. You want to add comfort and flair to your closet this year. Easy to style and versatile looks that you don't have to think about. Mack Weldon is effortless by design. And with the ACE line, ease and self-assurance have never been more comfortable. Crazy comfortable, but elevated sweatpants, shorts, sweatshirts, and even blazers if you're lucky enough to grab one while they're in stock. And they have the all-new relaxed sweatpants, carpenter sweatpants, classic sweatpants available in 5 new colors. Mack Weldon is the go-to choice for guys who want to look good without even trying. And Mack Weldon clothes are designed to fit your style and the demands of modern life. Get moving with Mack Weldon, comfortable everywhere and anywhere. Go to MackWeldon.com and get 20% off your first order of $125 or more with promo code MAJORITY. That's Mack Weldon, MackWeldon.com, code MAJORITY. I don't know if you've ever had this happen, but I bought something recently that looked amazing online and it was so bad. I thought I did everything right too. I checked the reviews, I compared options, I watched YouTube videos. And then it showed up and I was like, this was not what I ordered. The quality was off. The reviews clearly weren't real. And now I'm stuck dealing with returns, shipping, refunds, the whole thing. Not sure if I'll ever get my money back. And that's the worst part about shopping online now. It's like you can't tell what something is, whether if it's really truly quality or not. And it's easy to pick the wrong thing. And that's why I wish I had used dupe.com's new research for me tool before I bought it. A few days later, I'm about to buy something new. You know, I just moved into this new apartment. I'm buying tons of stuff. And already, things are dramatically different. And so instead of risking another disaster, I took the exact same search and put it to dupe.com research for me. And I completely have a totally different experience. No ads at the top, no sponsored best pick that you know someone paid for. I just walked through, looked at the options, was able to clearly assess whether something was good, whether it was worth it, and why. And I'm thinking, sitting there, saying, well, you know what? This would have saved me from the last purchase I made, and saved me a ton of time. And I feel good about what I'm buying now. I don't have to like wince when I'm opening the box, worry that something's going to come out that's totally different than what I paid for. And so you should give dupe.com a look, and type in something like, hey, comfortable couch under $1,000 and see what comes in, just to see what it looks like. Or just, you know, search for things that you've long had on your list, and didn't have the time to research. And you'll go through a bunch of options. It'll pull real sources from people you can actually trust. It'll filter out sponsored links and recommendations, and it'll give you a straight answer on what to buy and why. And you'll also get a full breakdown on features, specs, and pricing. And my favorite part, it actually tells you what not to buy too. So it actually takes a position, which can save you from making a really expensive mistake. So if it takes research to buy it, let Dupe do it for you. Stop wasting time comparing options. Just go to dupe.com and tell it what you're looking for. That's dupe.com to feel finally confident about what to buy. So JD Vance is out there for this media tour for his new book. But one thing is absolutely clear is that he has been tapped to sell this MOU. Here's just one example of what he's been up against. This is him with Jake Tapper.
Jake, for 47 years, this country has been a thorn in our side. It's been kind of a basket case for Democrat and Republican administrations. The coolest thing about the progress we've made over the last few weeks is that you see people within the Iranian system, senior leadership, even IRGC officials say, you know what? We may have some animosity, we may have some mistrust, but we recognize the way that we've done business with the United States for 47 years is a mistake. Let's try something else. We're going to verify that, of course, but we're certainly willing to try something else if they comply.
So the Bulwark in their Triad newsletter had this really good write-up about what's going on with JD, which is essentially, you notice we don't see Marco Rubio. Trump has been a little bit out there, but not, they really are like JD Vance is going to be the salesperson. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of questions that this raises, but here's their summary of the proposition JD Vance is trying to sell. So this is basically what Vance's position has to be here. I knew the war was a bad idea. I fully support President Trump. Operation Epic Fury was an amazing success. Our super cool military crushed Iran, and I'm the one who got us out of that tough situation. Pick me, and I'll make sure we never launch another hugely successful war. That's what he's selling. And I think this tells you a little bit about what Trump feels about JD Vance.
Yeah, well, apparently, I just saw breaking news that Trump just said in public remarks, if the deal doesn't work, I'll blame JD. So he just said that like an hour ago.
That's so funny. It's like Trump, obviously I hate Trump more than any human being on this planet, but he really could be funny when he's making fun of people I also don't like. So Brett from Midas tweeted, for all the jobs Marco Rubio seems to have, it's very odd that he isn't doing the one he actually was appointed to do as Secretary of State, explaining the MOU to the American people. I noticed that too. Mark Thiessen tweeted, who's a big Iran war hawk, getting Lebanon including in the Vance peace deal was an Iranian objective. The Vance peace deal, not the U.S., and one the U.S. initially resisted when the ceasefire was announced. To spin this as an American achievement is Orwellian. Notice also that Ben Shapiro, I'm sure he's going to criticize Trump too, but was really upset about this photo op between J.D. Vance and whoever. A lot of these people we have seen are afraid to criticize Trump directly. They do not seem afraid to criticize Vance.
No, they don't. Not at all. Because Trump is as weak as he's been politically since January 6th. And Vance has frankly never been all that strong as far as his influence. I think the people who like JD Vance, and there are some, they're the same people, by the way, who like Marco Rubio. And they are people, and I have friends like this, who are Republicans, who vote Republican, but are embarrassed by Trump. And they acknowledge that they don't like Trump. They don't like the way he does things. They like some of his policies, but they would much prefer somebody else. And then what they do is they say, but I do like JD Vance. I do like Marco Rubio because they're a little bit more conventional. They're, in my mind, in many cases, just as devious and certainly just as responsible, but they are more conventional. And so it's kind of a safe harbor. And that's where Vance is. But what comes with that is there's no fervent Vance crowd. There's no crowd out there like, it's a double-edged sword for Trump, right? There's a lot of people who truly, truly dislike and hate Trump, and you and I are among them. But the other side to that is that means you get a lot of people who truly love him. And that's how it works.
Yes.
Vance is sort of this milquetoast place in between. I don't think it's probably a great place to be.
Well, when he's doing his Trump impression, it just comes off weird, right? So he went on The View to talk about his book, and Axe called it like a Mr. Rogers shtick, and then he turned around and went on Fox and Friends and was back to being the old JD Vance. And when he tries to be mean spirited and all that, he has all the venom of Trump with none of the weird shticky humor that Trump has.
Well, his problem is he cares what everybody thinks.
Yes.
He care. Trump truly, like, if you didn't like him, then he just figured you were a bad person.
Right.
And then he would demonize you. And eventually, if you're a Republican, you come back around because you have to, so he doesn't care. And that's the power of celebrity and going all the way back to Apprentice. And he's been making things up his entire life, and it's what's been working for him. And that's not JD Vance. JD Vance is more in the conventional system and doesn't have that arrow in the quiver.
Well, this was him on the Gutfield show. He was doing the rounds on Fox News.
And to make a bipartisan point here, the Republican VP trying to be bipartisan, I was raised by patriotic Union Democrats who maybe wouldn't have agreed with every single policy of a Republican administration, but they recognize that this is the greatest country in the world and every single one of us should be grateful to live here. And I think that is the fundamental problem. Greg, it doesn't bother me when congressional Democrats disagree with our policies. It bothers me like that they're just terrible people, so many of them. But what really does bother me is that they don't show gratitude for the United States of America. Disagree with our policies, but if you don't feel grateful to live here and for the people who made it possible, then what are you even doing being in public service? Yeah. Too many Democrats don't show appreciation for the country.
It just lacks something, I don't know how to explain it.
He sounds like a politician.
Yeah.
Is what it is. He sounds like a politician. By the way, we can't play the clip from The View because of copyright reasons, but I would encourage people to go back and watch it. And for one thing in particular that I have noticed and that I'm going to start talking about, which is JD Vance has a tell. And that tell is he says, here's what I'd say about that, or what I will say about that is. And he often does it in the middle of a sentence. He will stop a word salad that he's progressing on, and he will stop and say, what I'll say about that is. And here's what's happening when he does that. JD Vance, anybody who's been through media training will understand this, has probably at any given time 20 or 30 memorized answers to questions in his mind that he's done them a bunch of times so he can mix and match. And when he gets a question that he's not exactly sure how to answer, what he does is he starts talking, and he basically does sort of do no harm word salad for 5 to 7 seconds. And what he's actually doing is he's searching the drop-down menu in his brain for the memorized response that he can give, because it's contextually close enough to the question that was asked, but is not actually an answer to the question that was asked, but is something that he wants to say and puts it back on his territory. And so, folks, watch any interview with JD Vance, and he will do this at least twice in the interview. He will word salad for 5 to 7 seconds, and then mid-sentence just completely change course because he found the thing, and he'll say, well, what I'll say about that is, and then he'll give a very polished response that is entirely non-responsive to the question that was asked in the first place.
Well, Jason, here's what I'll say about that.
Yeah.
We had a couple other stories we were going to hit, but we're not, because we've got a special guest now in Rob Sand. He's running for governor of Iowa. So why don't we welcome him on here?
Yeah, sure. Let me introduce him here. So Rob Sand is a former prosecutor, a popular Iowa state auditor, a husband and father, an avid outdoorsman, and the Democratic candidate for governor of Iowa, and I think a friend of both of ours. Rob, how you doing, man?
Pretty good. How are you guys? Good to see you.
Good. I understand you altered your travel schedule today to do this with us, so thank you.
We made it work.
I appreciate
Where are you right now, Rob?
I am in Des Moines, and we are kicking off our 100 town hall tour tonight in Decorah, which is my hometown. So these are literal, actual town halls. Like, we invite Democrats, Independents, and Republicans. We send it out via text. Everybody is welcome to come in. We pass around a microphone and get questions from all of them. In fact, a lot of times I will approach someone who is a Republican, because we ask people to raise their hands at the start, and we ask them to applaud the people who aren't in their political party to bring them together. And I'll approach someone who raised their hand to say that they were Republican and just give them the microphone, even if they don't have their hand up. What do you want to talk about? Like, let's quit hating each other and actually work together.
Well, what are you learning out there that for folks who aren't from Iowa, and, like, I'm a city kid, I'm in New York City, like, what is something counterintuitive that you're learning from those Republicans that are showing up to your events?
I think that there is a tremendous hunger for someone who is willing to disagree with you. I think so many people are just sick of BS, right? They look at anyone running for office and they just assume the worst. In fact, earlier today, I was having this conversation with someone, and I said, I feel like candidates these days, myself included, bear the weight of decades of BS in politics, because people just assume that you are going to, say whatever you need, or, claim that you agree with them on something when in fact you don't. I just finished doing an interview with the Iowa Firearms Coalition. They're a pretty Republican, pretty conservative group. They had 4 questions. I agreed with them on one. I said maybe on another. There was one where I was like, nope. But I had a conversation, and I told them about my campaign and why I think the direction the state has been going in is the wrong direction. And I just think there's so many people out there right now that just they want someone who is honest with them. They want someone who is upfront and forthright. And there are people really who are paying more attention and who are more gettable, because their dividing line isn't necessarily Democrats versus Republicans. It's public servants versus politicians, or honest people versus con artists,
Go ahead, Ravi.
Oh no, I was going to say, one of the things that's fascinating about your career is that your position as auditor, right? Is that the title? State auditor?
Yeah.
It's not a position that a lot of us are familiar with. But from what I understand, you've used it in some sort of innovative ways to both do the sort of, nuts and bolts basic job, but also to use the tools of the job to push for some policy and accountability.
Yeah, we actually we started a government efficiency program in our office that is so good it's been copied in other states. It's really simple. We just have a big list of things that you can do to save taxpayer money, and the more of them you do, the more likely you are to win an award. And if you win an award, the program is called Public Innovations and Efficiencies, which spelled pie. We will bring you a pie if you win. So,
any kind of any quirky ways people have saved money out there in the state of Iowa?
Oh yeah. There's a lot of weird stuff that if you do, taxpayers are gonna be like, that saves me money. If you save me money, keep doing it. Composting. Hospitals and schools and jails have a lot of food waste. Those are the three places that pretty much every level of government is putting resources in. At the same time, they have landscaping needs. If you take that food waste, instead of paying for the fuel to truck it to the dump, paying the dumping fee, you just put it on site and you compost it. You save the dumping fee, you save the gas cost, the fuel cost, and you save on your landscaping costs on the back end too.
And you get a pie.
And you get a pie.
What a deal, man. Rob, I think people listening to this might be surprised because of what they think of Iowa in the middle of the country where, I live in Missouri, but it's not that far from Iowa. I think you're winning right now, aren't you?
The only public poll in our race, it was pre-primary. That was 2 weeks ago, but we were ahead by, I think, 8 or 9. And that was consistent with polls that had been released prior to the primary, which is 2 weeks ago. So I'm sure we'll see some new ones soon. But we've also had a tremendous lead in fundraising. And here's my favorite fact. We have 3 times as many registered Iowa Republican donors as my opponent has in this race so far.
That's pretty great.
It is. Again, people are sick of BS. They are sick of politicians. They are interested in someone that is actually willing to do the hard pieces that separate public servants from people who are just sort of in it for politics. And I think a piece of that goes back to, I'm doing 100 town halls this year. We started tonight. I do 100 every year. I go to every county. I always give at least 2 weeks advance notice that I'm going to be there. Anyone can come yell at me if they want to. They can compliment me if they want to. I wouldn't be opposed. But it's just open. It's democracy the way it's supposed to be. So there was actually a guy who followed me around for 2 years at the behest of the Republicans, videotaped my appearances, and then after 2 years asked me for a bumper sticker, even though he was the chair of his county Republican Party. Because he said, this guy's just a person. He's doing it the way we want it to be done. He's less of a Democrat or a Republican, less of a politician, more of just like a person who wants to do this job and do it the right way.
So wait, you won over your tracker?
I won over my tracker.
Is that guy going to be in like every ad? That's amazing.
We'll see. We've gotten to know each other a little bit. And spoiler
I did not win over my tracker.
Sometimes it was a small crowd when you're doing your town halls as the state auditor. It might be 30 people, but it might be 3. So,
and he was there either way.
He was there either way.
He had season tickets to the Rob Sands show. So, before we talk about your opponent in a moment, your trajectory right now reminds me a lot of Claire McCaskill's. Claire, prior to becoming a U.S. Senator, Claire was the state auditor.
Yep.
And she was a really creative auditor and in a lot of similar ways. And she also was a massive proponent of town halls that took all comers and would answer every question.
I did not know that.
And that worked out quite well. And Claire got a lot of crossover votes and was really beloved for it. And anyway, I don't know if y'all already know each other, but if you don't, that's an introduction we should.
We do a little bit. And in fact, she was a prosecutor prior to being state auditor.
That's right.
I was as well, 7 years.
Yeah.
If anybody out there likes true crime, I uncovered the largest lottery rigging scheme in American history. I wrote a book about it called The Winning Ticket, so you can check that out.
It was a big story in like the Times or somewhere. I don't remember.
Yeah, New York Times Magazine. In fact, if you don't like reading, lottodoc.com right now has a 45-minute documentary that you can watch about it. So that's cool too. It's a crazy story. There's Bigfoot hunters involved in claiming these lottery tickets around the country, like people who go out into the woods to look for Bigfoot. It's a crazy story.
Yeah, I mean, all right. Tell us about your opponent. If I recall correctly, there's some funny stuff there.
He, as you mentioned, you're in Missouri. Missouri's pretty close to Iowa. A little bit further away is Kansas. He launched his campaign saying Iowa first. As it turns out, his plane, it was actually discovered, spends more time on the ground in Kansas than it does in Iowa. He had like 40 trips once every 6 days back to Kansas. When he was asked about this, he said, well, you know, most of his family is down there. His kids are down there, which is fine. God bless. But if elected governor, he'll change the situation. And I quote, he'll be in Iowa as much as humanly possible. So we're all very reassured.
And so this, you said, I don't want to miss what you said. So he has a plane. So this guy's pretty well off.
He has a plane. It's not a jet, but my understanding is it's like a really nice prop plane.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah,
and you should get him to make that distinction on the debate stage. I'm sure he'll come off as very relatable.
He's spent 10 years as a full-time paid political operative, worked to take healthcare away from people in Montana, worked for some folks, some pretty far-right folks in Colorado, and then was living down in Kansas, working down there for a dark money group before re-registering to vote in Iowa just before the 2024 elections.
I'm curious what it means to be in Iowa as much as possible when you're governor.
Yeah,
I think a lot of Iowans would love to know the answer to that. Most of us live here. It's like you would never say those words because you're like, what are you talking about? That's home.
I mean, what a deal he's offering. Is that an incredible administrator of things.
That's right. That's
willing,
right.
If you make me governor, to spend more time in Iowa.
That's right. That's right.
Rob, I got to be honest. I don't know how people can pass that up.
Many people would move here just because it's Iowa and it's awesome. Yeah. Many people would move here for a job with a paycheck. He will move here full time if given a job with a paycheck and complete reign as governor over everything that happens. What a deal.
Will he though? I mean, he said as much as possible.
Right.
Yeah, I don't like that ambiguity there.
Yeah, I think
I would want to hear. I'm going to move.
And be like, that doesn't.
You can't even say he'll move to the state he's going to be governor, and he's just like, I'm going to be there as much as possible.
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to like run for Congress and be like, I haven't totally moved home yet, but I live in Washington a lot. And obviously, I've rented an apartment, and I will be here on the weekends if you make me the member of Congress. It's another thing to be like, I'll try to be there a lot if I'm the governor.
Yeah.
That's pretty
well.
great.
So you're gonna out hustle him. You're gonna go out there, and Iowa is a pretty sort of it's a pretty flat state in many ways. And when I was on the Obama campaign, we learned that you could spend 24/7 visiting new towns, new counties. We had people all the way out there. I was in Wright County, which is very rural.
Yeah.
And so you have this opportunity to talk to people. My sense is that it is not a great time to be in agriculture, whether it's this administration's policies or just the way that consolidation's happening.
Yeah.
What can you do at the state level to make things easier for folks?
I think a big piece of this is being willing to actually be a public servant to the state of Iowa. Tariffs are bad for the state of Iowa. Donald Trump is going to do what he does. If you are literally elected by Iowans to serve Iowans, you better be able to say tariffs are bad and not have it be much more complicated than that. And frankly, that's one of those dividing lines, guys, when we were talking about the difference between politicians and public servants. All the people who are running around right now who are in the president's party who are saying, oh, Iowans, trust me, this will lead to a new golden age. Everyone knows that's not true, but because they're not willing to say that this is bad for Iowa, they're outing themselves as people who are really more focused on serving their party than they are on actually serving Iowans. I think that's a really important distinction. We should have people who are going to bat for the state of Iowa out in Washington, and they should be. It should be that same attitude whether you're working in Des Moines or you're working in DC every day. I also do think we've had real issues with consolidation. We've had real issues with water quality in Iowa. We are the top state, #1 for cancer growth. And we've got a lot of work that we need to do to improve our water quality in Iowa, as well as other causes of cancer, to address that. But I think the way to do that is really, at the end of the day, it's by hearing the farmers who are saying we want to do more. Because presently, we're in a situation where every year there's more farmers signed up for conservation programs than there are politicians who are willing to expand those programs. And that's a problem. If they want to do better, we should be helping them do better.
I think one of the really interesting things about this race, Rob, is you've got a situation where there's a real chance for Democrats to win the Senate race, and probably an even better chance to win the gubernatorial race. And I think, for all the ways in which it feels like politics, that like none of the typical rules apply anymore, and everything's out there. I mean, Trump is president again, and everything just feels upside down all the time. One thing that does seem to stick is that people, for as little as they think of legislators in terms of what they actually have to do. I mean, I think it's gotten worse and worse that people just think, if I'm electing you to a legislative body, I don't care that much about you. I care which button you're going to push. You're a proxy for me and my partisanship. And that's why those elections tend to matter so much on what the generic ballot looks like at a given time. But it is still the case that if you want to be in charge of an executive office, most people do require that you have been good at something prior. And I think the fact that so many people clearly think you've done a good job as auditor, the point I'm making is, it still matters that you do a good job in the job that you have if you want to get promoted. There are still situations where that's the case, and that is kind of reassuring.
I think so. I think that does matter to people. I mean, we uncovered a record amount of misspent money in my first term as state auditor. The answer to that from the legislature and the governor was they literally passed a law to make it harder for us to find misspent tax dollars. Like every single government watchdog in America, Democrats and independents and Republicans, 100% said this is a terrible idea. It's going to lead to an increase in waste, fraud, and abuse. But they did it because we did our job. We took it seriously. We created that PI program. Prior to that, at the Attorney General's office, uncovering the largest lottery rigging scheme in American history. I do think that competence counts for something. I think that people don't necessarily, they might not be focused on what you're competent at. They want to know that you can get things done. And it might be that you're a businessman. It might be that you run a small business. It might be that you have won the Teacher of the Year award. But they want to know that, like, okay, if I put you in charge of this, like, you are going to be good at doing most of the work that you're supposed to be doing.
And, well, something I would love for us to figure out how to do at some point is get across the idea that competence matters in other offices also, besides just like, mayor or governor, because I get how people understand, particularly like here in the Midwest, right? Where governors have to respond to natural disasters and emergencies, right? There will, during your term as governor, there will be a nasty snowstorm an ice storm that will shut down highways. There will be, God forbid, but there will be tornadoes. There'll be things like that. And people see their governors, they see their mayors either do a good job handling those situations or not. And what do they see their senator do, regardless of party? They see them show up, and maybe they have an idea that they're supposed to get some funds sent back home, but they don't have any way, because they've worked in a job, they've seen somebody be a boss and run an office, but most people have never gotten close enough to see what it looks like when a senator or a representative goes and advocates. And so somewhere or another, we're going far afield in this interview right now, but somewhere or another, we've got to get across to people that those jobs matter too.
Well, I think this is really important. And to me, a big piece of that is actually giving people more than 2 options on the ballot. This is one of the centerpieces of our campaign. It has been a passion of mine for ever. I'm a big believer that we shouldn't have 2 private clubs that have special legal privileges over our ballot. And what it ends up with is you get people who are like, I am the partisan, candidate, and they run because they really want to serve their party. But you don't get the people who are just like, I want to help. I want to be the helper that Mr. Rogers was talking about when he said, look for the helpers. I want to help make good decisions. I want to listen to people that I disagree with. I want to find that moment when they're right and I'm wrong, and use that to craft a better solution. So I think you're right about that. And I think a part of the solution to making that is letting more people be candidates so that we have more competition and that we have more accountability as voters when we're actually seeing politicians who aren't doing a good job in terms of competence, because it's then easier to replace them with someone that is competent.
So what's that look like? Is that like ranked choice voting, or how would you do that?
I like the Alaska is the closest to what I would do, but without ranked choice. A single public primary, everyone's on the same ballot, send the top 3 to 5 to the general, and then use what Fargo, North Dakota started, approval voting. Here are 5 candidates, vote for as many of them as you approve of. You don't have to rank. It's very simple. Whoever has the most people approve of them wins the race. Yeah, it is.
I like that.
Well,
Yeah, I like that.
I've always thought one of the best strengths of that is that it really cuts down on the zero sum deal, right? Because if you're competing for Democratic votes or moderate votes, and there's 3 of you under the same banner on there, it's not in your interest to go scorched earth on the others, because then more people will be like, I don't approve of that person.
It means that there's going to be less lying and more collaboration and more honesty and more kindness, all of which are things I think that are really important, because you're going to recognize, if it's the 3 of us running for office against each other, you're each going to have your base, but those people can vote for me too if they approve of me. And the way for me to max out on the number of your supporters who also approve of me is highlight where we agree and speak about you in respectful terms. And when we disagree, say it's because we have different views, because we have different experiences and we're different people, not because, someone's out to destroy your way of life. And if we did this in a handful of states like Iowa, I think we could make Washington, D.C. actually work again. Yeah.
Well, I like it.
Excellent.
All right, Rob, tell these people where they can support you and how.
Yeah, robsand.com. Follow us on social media at robsandIA on pretty much any platform. But if you want to pitch in for the campaign, it's robsand.com, just like up there and over there.
Rob, you seem to be, because I've talked to you, not just on this show, you seem to be having more fun campaigning than most people right now. And I think that's coming through.
I really like talking to human beings. I love people. I've always been a really curious person, and so I like to learn about people. But when I'm talking, Jason, about the brokenness of our political system, I am letting loose one of the things that I feel more deeply than anything else, and that is life-giving.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks.
Hey, good to see you. Thanks for having me.
See you, Rob.
Yep.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Well, should we jump into one for us?
Sure. Yeah, you go.
Well, the next one.
Yeah, big news.
It's the first time really in my lifetime that a team that I really root for since I was a kid when the Yankees won, when I was still really invested in that. So it's cool. It's just been great to see. The city's been nuts, man. It's been absolutely like nothing I've ever seen before.
I know that there are people who feel like we talk about sports too much on here, but we talk about sports often because they build community. And there was I saw a little quote from Mamdani talking about this, where he said, the great thing about when the Knicks are winning, New York, the biggest city in America, feels like a small town. And I totally get that. I can see how that would be the case.
Yeah. By the way, I had dinner with my mom last night, and she seemed to be under the impression that you were bashing New York in our conversations. And I couldn't remember what she was referencing. So this is
I just said I never root for New York teams.
Oh, that's what you okay, yeah. Well,
because all the other teams are just the bane of my sports existence. and they just win all the time. But I do, as a rule, root for so I will say to Ravi's mom, I would say, I don't hate New York. I love New York. In fact, I spent a lot of time there. Go there every year. Have lots of family there, and You might even argue that in some ways the song New York, New York helped.
She did mention
pay for
this.
college.
She actually made that argument to me. I was like, I'm not getting involved in this.
No,
argument.
I've spent a lot of time in New York, and I love New York. Absolutely. I will have no problem telling you that I hate the Yankees. I don't have any strong views whatsoever.
I don't blame
on
anybody for
the
hating the
Giants or the Jets, or I actually kind of like the Bills. My wife not so much. I mean, my wife I love very much. She not so much.
Yeah,
like,
you're gonna have to do more damage control.
Yeah.
The thing is about who I want to meet the person who hates the Jets other than Bill Belichick. It's like it's like hating I don't even want to get into what the analogy could be, but it's
if
like
the Jets made a real run
team.
and the Chiefs weren't in the way, I would, just as I have with the Bills, I would have to pull for that. And so I had no trouble pulling for the Knicks. Now I'm a Thunder fan, so if the Thunder had made it into the finals, that would have been different. But no, I was excited for that. I thought that was cool.
And we did you a solid by turning Wemby into full-blown villain status. Like I think
it's
with
wild,
a lot.
huh?
Well, I think some of his help, like not shaking
yeah.
hands after the game and some of the dirty play.
He had some kind of immature behavior for sure.
Yeah, I called this, by the way. I think I was telling you this. I've been long and at Wemby, like, this is sports, so it's not a reflection of anybody's character, but I have long seen in him like a meanness and a pettiness where when he went after Chet, you saw it. And I'm like, just pick your lane. If you're going to be the heel, which is, it seems like half the time he wants to be, I'm like, then just be the heel. You can't then also be like, I'm Mr. Buddhist monk and I want everybody to think I'm cool. It's like one or the other. And Wemby, if you're listening, because I know you probably are, instead of going to China and studying with monks, maybe learn some post-up moves. Just who am I? Who am I to tell you?
Well, I mean, it is odd because he has behaved a little bit immaturely for a guy who's quite tall for his age.
Oh, he's French. Can't help it.
I don't know.
French.
Let's see. For me, one for us. I have all sorts of things going on, but right now it's baseball season for me and for my son, so it's lots of baseball right now. For those who don't know, I play grown man amateur, hardball, not softball. And tell you what, man, I just turned 45. I'm still playing about 2 to 3 games a week this summer, as I have.
Games are pretty long, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I mostly play center field. There's just a lot of running, and I am feeling it right now.
Yeah.
I'm still enjoying it a lot. But
in what way? Like knees back or just general fatigue?
A lot of fatigue. I think a lot of that has to do with, for whatever reason, they've been scheduling our games late. Like there've been plenty of times where I've, like on a Monday night, I'll finish a game at like 11:30 p.m. And of course, I got to get up with the kids in the morning. So I think that's a big factor. But also, just like at 45, things don't bounce back the same way. My shoulder is, from throwing, my shoulder's hurting. A little bit of lower back, but really just a lot of just really the legs feeling quite heavy. And I'm having to spend a lot more time on recovery and that kind of thing. And so anyway, that's I still play in the over 30 and the over 40 and a little bit in the over 18 league. And I've realized that
over 18. Wow.
See, people always think that that's all that impressive, but it's not, because really, and no slander to the kids in that league, but like if you are really, really good at baseball between the ages of 18 and 25, you're either playing for your education or for pay.
Yeah.
And the guys that I play with and against who did that, they did that when they were that age. So they're mostly playing. So the most competitive league is the 30 and over league.
30 over, yeah.
And so when you play in the 18 and over, those kids clearly their legs are fresher and their arms are stronger. But in terms of just straight up baseball skill, it's a little bit below the 30 and over. It's a lot more guys who played high school ball. And then there are some guys who played some college in that league, but it's mostly guys who were just good high school players. Whereas I'm one of the very few guys who didn't play high level college baseball in the 30 league. Anyway, it takes a toll, man.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying. And I'm feeling it, but so right now I got a doubleheader tonight. And when we finish this, I'm going to do my foam roller routine. I'm going to do all that stuff. I'm going to start hitting the Advil early. And then there's a full coat of BioFreeze, first coat that goes on. It's a whole thing. So,
well, I just rewatched Bill Durham over the weekend. What a weird movie. Great movie, but
It is a
also
weird movie.
I had forgotten. I hadn't seen it since I was a kid, I think, and I had forgotten just how
the whole
like,
Susan
corny
Sarandon
that movie
thing.
is.
Yeah.
So it's just like that movie
it's
is
a real it's a
like weird
love
movie.
triangle movie that happens to be set against a minor league baseball team.
And just a very different what's his name performance. The pitcher, what's his name?
Robbins, Tim Robbins.
Tim Robbins. That's not how you I think of him as Andy Dufresne.
Mhm.
But he's just a whole different character. Great. I mean, I love the idea of minor league sports. We had a really fun minor league Yankees team in Staten Island for a while, and unfortunately moved, but it was a beautiful ballpark right on the harbor. It was really nice. I just walked past it yesterday. It's now like a professional team. I don't know what league it is, but it's called the Ferry Hawks.
Very independent minor league.
Yeah. So we lost the team, which kind of sucks, but yeah.
All right. Well, this was fun. Thanks, everybody. As usual, please leave us a 5-star review. You can find me at Jason Kander everywhere. You can find Ravi at Ravi M. Gupta everywhere. Thank you to the Midas Mighty. And remember, we all have a platform. Make sure to use yours today.